From late June to the start of August this year, the AIS Fitness Centre closed its doors due to the COVID-19 pandemic. During this time, the elderly patrons who attend classes at the centre were left to self-isolate and miss their routine visit to the fitness centre. These visits not only kept their bodies in shape, but provided an opportunity to socialise with other patrons and staff. Now the centre is open, but the pandemic continues. However, the regulars have returned in droves to rejoin their classes, accepting the risk of infection to get their physical and social fix. I spoke with geriatrician Dr. Marianne Kuhl, an expert in health for elderly people. She believes that the many benefits of exercise outweigh the risk of infection for elderly Canberrans. Dr. Kuhl, could you give me a brief description of your area of expertise?
I trained as a geriatrician since 2005. I've been practicing, and as a geriatrician we look after the illnesses associated with ageing. So most of my patients are over the age of 65.
Would you agree that the elderly patients you see are more at risk during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, so that's been well proven that as you get older, you tend to get more of the complications of the virus, which are mainly respiratory, so they tend to have increased risk of pneumonia and then increased risk of needing what we call, non-invasive or invasive ventilation. So they're also more likely to die as a result of the disease.
Do you prescribe exercise to your elderly patients?
Yep, I'd say more than 80% of my patients.
What benefits do elderly people experience from exercise?
Because one of the problems with ageing is that often people are put on medications to treat various illnesses, chronic diseases, and as the number of medications increase, side effects can also become more prominent. And so by doing things such as exercise, which also improves chronic conditions, we can avoid commencing these medications.
Due to the pandemic, elderly people have been recommended to self-isolate at home. Have you noticed any negative effects in your patients due to this isolation?
So definitely, particularly people who were living on their own and have become isolated from families. They've become much more anxious. So one of the things I saw in the last 6 months was people who had depression relapse during this time. And I also saw that anxiety became much more prominent in people who were previously not anxious.
Taking into account the risks of the pandemic, would you still recommend elderly people to rejoin their exercise classes?
So we know how to exercise safely. We know about social distancing. We know about, screening for symptoms, and these exercise groups are doing that. So as long as there's a screening process, that people are being socially distanced, and people aren't coming to the class with coughs and colds and things, older people can still safely exercise.